when your local firemen who know you by name say, "Hey, Jamie, don't kill me, but you're going to need to come to Danville." And when I ask, "Hey, okay, what's up, Sean?" And he tells me that a car drove into one of my buildings, you can't help but laugh because if not, I'd probably cry.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
I This is going to be the first episode of 2021. So super exciting. Um who are you?
So I'm Jamie Liu, and I am a commercial real estate portfolio manager for Castle Management. We are a property management company in San Ramon, California.
How long have you been with them?
I've been with Castle Management, let's see, 2021 will be going on 10 years.
Yeah.
Scary. I feel old.
Was that your first position out of college?
No, no. So I graduated from Chico State, go Wildcats, with, yeah, a degree in communications, so nothing to do with property management. I graduated in 2011, and 5 months after graduating, Castle Management was my first, I say, big girl job and really only job. But I started in the residential division. So I was working at an apartment complex in Pleasant Hill, and I did that for a few years. And then, it was great. First experience out of college, your own place to live. I learned a lot. I joined the CAA and I got CCRM certified. So I got a lot of my residential certificates. I learned a lot, but it wasn't for me. I knew that I could do more. And so one day I called my boss and just said, "Hey, look, I definitely feel like I need to be challenged. Do you have anything for me?" And 2 weeks later, I get a phone call that there was a spot in the commercial division. I knew nothing about commercial real estate. Obviously, it was completely new to me, but I was up for the challenge and I said, "I'm absolutely open to learning." And yeah, ended up packing up and moved over to the corporate office in San Ramon. And I've been doing that now since 2014. And yeah, so I've got a portfolio of a little over 500,000 square feet of commercial assets. I've got office buildings, I've got warehouses and shopping centers, which is actually where we partner with ASSC. Whoop, whoop. So it's pretty cool. It keeps me busy. Every day is completely different. I have joined several associations since moving over to the commercial division. So I've got IREM, which is the Institute of Real Estate Management. And then I've got ICSC, which is the International Council for Shopping Centers. And I'm still a part of CAA, but IREM and ICSC are the two big commercial ones that I'm involved in.
Didn't you get some really good news from ICSC this year?
Well, funny you mentioned that. A little plug for myself and Castle Management in general, really cool. So I was nominated in September for an award called the Top Leaders Under 40. Really cool because ICSC is in 90 countries, so it's global. And I didn't think anything would come of it. Little 32-year-old me in San Ramon, California. And I got an email that I had made it to the second round where we needed to make a 3-minute clip about ourselves, talking about our company and what we do and all that good stuff. So we hired a videographer with my boss's support, and we went to a few of our sites and made the video, submitted it, and I got a phone call at the end of November that I had been chosen as one of the top leaders under 40. So pretty big honor. There were 16 of us that were chosen. I'm the only one in California. Everybody else was in Texas, actually, where you're at. We had, Ohio, Florida, New York, Michigan, kind of all over the place back east. So really cool. I attended their Center Build conference for a few days at the beginning of December. learned a lot. Really cool to kind of hear war stories from fellow colleagues that are going through this pandemic as well and how they've navigated through it. So pretty big honor. I'll now forever be one of the top leaders, class of 2020.
And speaking of war stories from this 2020, do you have any that you'd like to share?
Oh gosh, do I? How long is
Last
this
week.
episode? Yeah, how long is this episode? Because I've got a lot. Funny, I'll actually share one that just happened because it just goes to show you that with property management, especially, I mean, you even know though in your industry, because I am one of the people that calls, it doesn't stop. It's all hours of the day, night, holidays, weekends. Buildings don't sleep. And that's one thing we always say in property management. And even as one of our vendors, you know that there could be a phone call that, hey, I've got water flooding through a ceiling and it's probably a cooling tower up on a roof, or, a system leaking. And it doesn't matter if it's a Monday through Friday because buildings don't care.
Yeah.
So a war story, I'm actually sitting in this office on Christmas Eve. It's about 12:30. I had finally decided to kind of put the computer away and spend some time with my daughter. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I was like, okay, I'm going to get stuff ready to make cookies for Santa, and I'm going to finish wrapping because, of course, I've been so busy working, I didn't have a chance to finish wrapping all her presents. So I get a phone call, and I've got two phones. As you know, you've got the personal, well, there's my family, and the work phone. And the work phone rings at about 12 p.m. and it's the fire department. And you know it's not good news when your local firemen who know you by name say, hey, Jamie, don't kill me, but you're going to need to come to Danville. And when I ask, hey, okay, what's up, Sean? And he tells me that a car drove into one of my buildings, you can't help but laugh, because if not, I'd probably cry.
Yeah.
So luckily, my dad had already come over to kind of celebrate Christmas Eve with us. So I had a babysitter ready to go. I literally got up, put a jacket on, told him don't let her in my office because there's a ton of unwrapped presents. And I hopped in the car and from Brentwood to Danville, got there within 30 minutes. And sure enough, there's a commercial van in the middle of my walkway in a building. So, you
What
get there.
happened?
So
Like,
she said she hit the gas instead of the brakes, which I actually just had this happen to me a year and a half ago at a shopping center that you guys partner on me with, and where a Tesla drove through a sushi restaurant into the kitchen. Same thing. She thought she was hitting the brakes, and she went up into a walkway, took out a couple of exterior lamp posts, a cast iron sign, some bike racks, and then the right side of her van went into one of my buildings. Nobody was hurt, thank God. Obviously, yeah. First and foremost, you show up and you say, is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Obviously, then the next thing is I check in with the fire department. I check in with the police. I check in with the tow truck driver that's getting ready to take this car out of my building. I go check in with my tenants who have shut their business down. The engineer and the city inspector show up. They shut down the business and they tell the residences they can't go in the building until we clear it. So we go through that whole ordeal. I spent about 3.5 hours there on Christmas Eve. We always say we don't hire princes and princesses. And in this industry, you cannot be a princess, because here I am, sweeping up broken glass and parts of headlights and helping my maintenance technician drag these ridiculously heavy cast iron exterior lamps and bike racks that flew all the way to the bakery on the other side of the building. So that's kind of an interesting war story. And of course, it happens in the middle of a pandemic where resources are already limited.
Yeah, with a recent shutdown again.
Yeah. So, and then on Christmas Eve, where people aren't really available to help you. But I'm lucky enough to have had some vendors come together and help me clean it up. So that's, I guess, one of the most recent war stories. Thinking, gosh, how do we partner together? So obviously, ICSC, kind of, I'll share how we met and got introduced with one another. So it's pretty cool. You guys, obviously, as an HVAC company, plumbing, all the other stuff you guys do, we were in need. And there goes my screen, so now I'm dark again. So we were in need of an HVAC vendor. And so back in 2015, I get a text message from my boss with a picture of one of your guys' company vans. And he said, call them. So I called, and within a couple months, you guys were doing an 11 unit replacement job for me. And that was our first job we ever did together. And then it went so smooth. It worked so well. You guys had all the resources. You had the depth of the crew that I needed in this area. And it just kind of started snowballing where you and I met and up on a roof doing our first job walk. And it was building by building by building. You guys just started taking over. And it's been an amazing partnership. And we've done obviously several replacements. We do all our quarterly preventative maintenance with you guys. But how you guys have expanded from more than just our HVAC contractor. It's been really cool. Obviously, we've built relationships and friendships. Obviously, you are my best friend, and it's been really cool that we developed over the last 5-6 years where, we get our business done. That's never changed. But then we also have a really awesome interpersonal relationship. And I'm really fortunate that, in this pandemic, especially, that huge shout out to your technicians. Especially, there's a couple of them that honestly have just really come through for me when I'm here. So obviously, sitting in my home office because of the shutdowns, for other reasons, because I have a small child that. It's funny, overnight, I became a stay-at-home mom and still a full-time working mom. And trying to navigate through that, I'm really, really relying on my vendors as my eyes and ears on my sites. And so, again, thank you to ICSC for being more than just our HVAC contractor that goes out there for service calls when, people say they're freezing cold or whatever it might be. I've got, a technician. He has been phenomenal. He doesn't call me with problems. He calls me with, hey, Jamie, I found this, and then I did this for you because I was already there. And knowing that I can't be there every day like I used to be or on a more regular because I'm here in Brentwood from my home office on a lockdown. An example, he was doing the PM and he noticed that a couple of the ceiling tiles were cracked and stained. Because you guys know our building so well, he knows that I keep ceiling tiles in one of my storage closets at the building. He took it upon himself to go in, grab the ceiling tiles, replace them for me, called me and just said, I just wanted to let you know it's already done. You don't need to get your service guy out here. You don't need to get a technician out. Here's a picture of what I did. And it's really cool. Another funny war story or example. So I get a call from a tenant at a building in Danville, an office building, freaking out. Oh my gosh, Jamie, there's some huge dead rodent right outside of our door. And it's so gross. And I didn't have a technician nearby. He was working, I think, in, I don't know, Milpitas or somewhere further away at the time. I didn't have anybody. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, okay, I'll go out there and scoop it up. I have no problem doing that, but it's going to take me at least 30 to 35 minutes to get there. I happen to know that another one of your technicians was working at that site on the chilling or cooling tower. And I thought, oh my gosh, I hate to do this to him, but I'm going to text him. And I thought I'd get some response of, no, I'm not going to take care of that, or no. It was, just tell me where it's at and I'll take care of it for you. He picked up the dead. It ended up being a mole. So, yeah. So it was, he was like, do you want to see a picture? No. But so he ends up picking up the mole for me and discarding it. And it was that's just another, I could go on and on about, examples like that. So shout out to your techs again for, yes, being more than just technicians, really being partners on our buildings and knowing that I can trust them with, they know the ins and outs of my property. They know my tenants now. And so it's really cool. It's really
What did you learn from 2020?
Whew, a lot. That's like the generic answer. But on a personal level, obviously, I feel like, I always tell people there's the Jamie that is property manager, work Jamie, follow what the contract says, and do my due diligence for my clients. But then I also say, well, then there's the human Jamie and the personal Jamie, where I do have to separate that, because it's not an easy industry to be in. It's not an easy job. When you're having to break bad news to people, or you're having to be the one to, in a pandemic, when everybody's suffering personally, to whether they've lost their jobs, or they can't pay their mortgages and they're losing their homes, or there's so much going on, or they've been impacted by COVID or lost family members due to COVID. So I have to always keep that in the back of my mind, that they're going through a lot. But when they're calling me, they're my tenant and I'm their property manager. And I have to remember that I have to kind of separate the personal side, where and I have to remind
Business
them,
is
hey,
business.
yeah, it's hard, but I'm like, hey, I have a job to do and you have a contract to follow, and you are not out of your obligations just as much as my clients are not out of their obligations. But what have I learned? I've learned to find a little more grace in situations. So intertwining the two a little bit, where the human side of me, I'll sit and listen. And a lot of the last almost year in this pandemic has been so much of me just listening to my tenants, listening to the vendors, listening to the clients. If I was a number in their Rolodex that they felt comfortable enough to call, if I could make a difference in their day, or I could help someone get through that dip, then I'm more than happy to do that. And maybe it wasn't necessarily in my property manager scope of work, or maybe it wasn't necessarily me as their, I don't know. It's one of those things where I realize I'm more than just Jamie, the real estate portfolio manager. I'm more.
What kind of value would your company, Castle, and or yourself bring to a potential client? Obviously, yes, you are their ear and their shoulder to lean on. But is there anything else that you would like to share?
Absolutely. Castle Management is a family owned and operated company. I'm really proud to work for this company. We have an awesome mission statement that I truly believe differentiates us from a lot of the other competitors out there. Everybody can put together a lease or can follow what a lease says, but we're so much more than that. And so as a company, as an organization, our motto is that we respect the worth and dignity of everybody: our clients, our tenants, our vendors, our employees. And we want to strive to continue to create a joyful working environment. And so how does that resonate in the industry? How does that help us? Well, I think at the end of the day, that, again, like you talked about, talking about having grace and patience, well, remembering to respect one another, remembering to honor and value one another. When we take that time to be more than just a property manager, when we take the time to be more than just a maintenance technician, or a bookkeeper, or an accounts receivable department, we are really taking that time to remember we're a family too. And that's really something that it hits home for me. I love the fact that I work for a company that I'm a part of a family, and they know that outside of work, I have a family at home, and I have responsibilities at home, and I have a lot of obligations at home. And so it's always a balancing act. And how can Castle help clients, ASSC's clients? How can we help potential clients? I think that knowing that not only can we get the job done, can we live up to IRM standards and ICSC standards and CAA standards, and make sure we're following the laws and the regulations? We can do that all day long. And our competitors can probably do that all day long. But we will give you something that I don't think a lot of people will give. We will give you compassion. We will give you patience. We will give you an interpersonal relationship that maybe you won't get elsewhere. And so, if you've got clients that are looking for someone to manage their building, and they're looking for some help or guidance, or they've got a new asset they're looking at and not really sure which direction to go, call Castle. And, we're here to help. And even if we just end up giving advice and it doesn't end up coming our way, it's getting our name out there, it's helping, it's sharing our wealth of knowledge. And so that's something I think that definitely sets us aside from other people. And we are looking forward to growing in 2021, pandemic or not. We're ready to go. And we've got the resources. We've got property managers. We've got maintenance technicians with Castle Management vans that are fully equipped and ready to drive to your site and ready to partner with a Rolodex full of awesome and capable vendors.
And I'm so grateful for you being on the CRE, people in CRE is what it's called now. So I hope that you can be a part of more of these. We're
Yeah.
going to have these probably bi-weekly, and then I'll have other intermittent videos, and that's where we can kind of bring you in and talk about